This is Nursing Uncensored. Your host, Adrianne Benning, invites you to listen in on conversations between real nurses about the crazy and wonderful lives we lead. This is a space meant to create laughter in addition to serious conversations, and nothing is off limits. Welcome back to Nursing Uncensored. If you've made it through parts 1 and 2, congratulations. You are a true diehard fan of Nursing Uncensored, and I thank you from the bottom of my tachycardic heart. But let's not get too far into high fives and butt slaps. We've still got over an hour to spend with the inimitable Robert P. Harris. He's a flight nurse, author of The Flight Nurse Bible, A Field Guide to Awesomeness. Great book. I digested it in like a few hours. So are you ready to finish this up? All right, let's do it.
In case you're one of those weird people that earning your nursing license wasn't the most amazing thing you'd ever done in your life, you need to defend that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to chart like your life depends on it. Because in my case, it does. Absolutely. It does. I mean, you know, like if you're going to wear these silly shirts and if you're going to do these silly things and talk smack like I'm talking, right?
Gotta protect it.
Dude, I say in the book also, you're one huge mistake from being terminated, litigated, killed in an accident, or some combination of the three. And that doesn't just apply in the helicopter world or the some sort of rescue world. That applies just as much on the med-surg, tele, ER setting, anywhere. Pre-op, post-op, PACU. I mean, this is what we have to do in this field. And that's what I love so much. Once again, I keep praising Miss Adrianne here, but you get these different voices and you bring to light the humility that we have to have because we're all so close to having this dream we've worked so hard for taken away from us. Like, nursing is my life. Like
Same.
I knew since I was a kid, it's what I wanted to do. I served in the military. I did a bunch of crazy shit. And then, I used that to bridge into LVN and then to RN. And then everything in my life has been a trajectory to where I am now. And to lose that because I'm a fucking idiot would just I cannot let that happen. And I might be an ironic story in 5 years. And I might be an ironic story in 5, 10, 15, 20 years because, that guy was an idiot and he wrote that stupid book and then he killed somebody and now he did, blah, blah, blah. Now I'll probably work construction or something, whatever. How you doing?
But I can't, even though I did not grow up knowing that I was going to be a nurse, I cannot.
That's almost more powerful though, Adrianne. That's almost more powerful.
And I just, at this point, I can't see myself doing anything else. And for a while, I was pretty burned out. I had to make some changes. And I, for a while, started shopping around for day shift jobs, 9 to 5 clinic jobs. And at first I was very excited. I thought, get away from night shift, get away from the insanity, the brutality, the crying, because I just couldn't help that patient. I mean, seriously. Yeah, I mean, because it's like I go from one room where I have a patient, like I've taken care of patients that I've known for years and I've done end of life care for them.
Yeah.
That shit that'll fuck you up so fast. But anyway, go ahead.
I was like, just real quick, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to pediatric oncology nurses.
Oh my God. Yes.
I've been through some shit. I've been some crazy places that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And quite frankly, I'm lucky to be alive for a lot of reasons. I could not do your job for one day. Pediatric oncology nurses deserve.
No, I couldn't do it. And everybody says, oh, well, I couldn't do that. That's why there's got to be so many of us, because we all like different things. We got to have our pedonc nurses. We've got to have our flight nurses. We've got to have our scrub tech nurses. I sweat so much at work. I sweat like a fucking man. I could never be a scrub nurse. You want to wrap me in what and make me stand where for how long?
Those ladies are crazy. Those ladies
are amazing. I couldn't. But that's just it. People say, oh, I could never do the kind of nursing. Well, that's why you don't. That's why you do the kind that you want to do. But yeah, so that shit's kind of crazy. But it's like you go from one room where your patient is dying and you have to be compassionate and chill, soothe. And then you go to the next room and you've got to convince your patient who's got new lungs that if they don't get up and walk despite their pain, you don't use it, you'll lose it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, pneumonia, motherfucker, is going to kill you.
You need to do this shit. So you go from this place of like, I'm going to rub your hands and use some essential oils to the next room being like, come on, nope, we got to get up. It's time to go. You can do this. You can, come on, rah, sis, like I'm your cheerleader. Let's do this. Come on. And then you go back to the next room and you're like, oh, back into soup. So it's like you get burned out from that shit really fast. And I had to make some changes to what I was doing. And so now I've, like, for example, at the time, I think I was working 100% or 90%. So we have percentages, 100% is like 20 some shifts every 6 weeks. And then, so I'm at 80% currently. So I work 16 12-hour shifts every 6 weeks. And some people are like, oh, you can make more money. This is my sweet spot. Okay. Yeah. I get several days off. Yeah.
Hey guys, we don't want Adrianne working more shifts. Go buy her t-shirts. Go buy her products. She got coffee mugs. She got all sorts of shit you can buy. Give this beautiful, amazing woman your money. What are you doing?
But here's the thing. Even though I don't work as many shifts. No, it's true. It's true. Even though I don't work as many shifts as some of my coworkers, I look at I'm a better nurse when I am there. I'm not burned out. I'm not exhausted. I don't have because I've had chronic migraine issues since I was a teenager.
Oh. I haven't given you one yet. Wow.
No, I am hydrated and good. Anyway, the point is that like I had to find that thing that works for me. Some people are so much happier when they're working those 70-hour work weeks. They get home, they're tired, they sleep solid, they get up and they're cool. Everybody's got to find their sweet spot.
What do you do? I mean, I know you have a lover.
Yeah, so I do. Honestly, you know what?
What do you do for you?
If I were not a nurse, and if I could make a living off of anything I wanted to do, I would have been an art major. Like, I have this very type A science brain, but also I have this like hippie, let's paint and upcycle and go thrift shopping and let's make our own fucking bread this week. And like, let's make that aioli ourselves.
Yeah, you're a cook. I understand as well.
I mean, we're foodie. My partner is a far better cook than I am, but we are definitely like, if we go to,
I have a credit card. I don't cook. That's my line.
But here's the thing. The only thing living where I do, we have some very good cuisine, but for the most part, I'm in a tiny college town in a rural state. Like so it's very much urban here. Like, I've got all the comforts of the city and like there are other bigger cities around us. And I'm equidistant from like Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis. Like I can get to places, but truth be told, like, this ain't a foodie town, if you ask me. I love my city. There are a lot of great places to eat, but there's also a lot of shit. So if I'm going to come to your restaurant and give you the money that I had to bust my ass for, it better not be worse than the food that my man can make for me in my kitchen. So that's the thing that I have a hard time with. So I'm not a food snob in a sense that I'm like, I prefer what do they call it? Gastronomic. No, I'm not like and I grew up poor, so I have a lot of comfort food for me that's like... Me too, sister. Yeah, so... But
we had taco night, spaghetti night, mac and cheese night.
Yeah.
And
carbs and stuff in jars. And God bless my parents. They busted their asses to get me through a good school in a good neighborhood. So
I earned my own way, but
I mean, I'm talking high school and then like college. Yeah. You can throw that in there. That's a point of pride because that's a difficult thing. That's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, so it's like that. If we travel because like there's a cluster of really good shit that we want to eat there. So,
you have any favorites? What's your favorite? I know we've been all crazy all over the board, but
this is hard. Okay. So there are two places. I'm going to shout out. I haven't.
All right.
Okay. So there is a place in Charleston, South Carolina. It's on an island. It's on like St. John's Island or some shit hanging off the coast of, we have to go across a big bridge to get to it. It's called Paige's Okra Grill. And it is basically like Nolan's style. Like you can get fried chicken, fried green tomatoes, like everything's fresh, everything's local. I mean, I had to unsubscribe from their Facebook page because it was killing me that I couldn't just drive there. They're like, it's like a fucking 15-hour drive or something for me to get there. And I was just tortured. So that's one place. Another place is in my pride, my hometown. It is in Chicago proper. So I'll say this just real quick. I did not grow up like an hour outside of Chicago. Like I was like 20 minutes from the Loop. Like I wasn't in Chicago, but I was there. Okay. So that's my legitimizing statement. But there's a place on the north side of Chicago called Smoke. SMOQUE.
Okay. So north side Chicago. So like we're like north of Wrigleyville.
Yep. Okay. It's on, I'd have to look up.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. It's like, I think we had to take the Dan Ryan to get out there. That wasn't the way that wasn't my stomping ground, but they're fucking barbecue. It's like a BYOB place. So you can bring like your 6-pack or whatever, go sit. I know the barbecue is a hot, divisive subject, but fuck, if you want barbecue in Chicago, you go to Smoke. So that's what I got to say. So anyway, that was a huge side note, but all my homies listening from Chicago, get you some Smoke and then overnight me some because I fucking want it. So that's, I don't remember how we got on that topic. I think I was talking about travel.
Well, I was just asking you about you. I mean, you've been so generous asking me about everything in my darn life.
And there's more stuff. I have more. I have one more screenshot. I have one more thing.
I'll tell you, Adrianne. Okay, I only say this because I've heard Joe Rogan do it a bunch of times with long guests, and I'm having the best time. Like I'm truly like my heart rate's like 130. I'm having so much fun.
Nice. Can
I have 20 seconds to urinate?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come right back.
Yeah, please do. Okay. Go for it. Okay. I'm gonna pause the recording.
Okay. I came back in about 20, 30 seconds.
I'm sorry, it's just bothering you.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, I said 20 seconds, but you can hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I said 20 seconds to urinate. It was more of a urinate and also a,
Cheers, brother.
You got it.
All right, so let's, I just bumped my mic. Professional. Let's continue on, shall we?
Yeah. Just you just kick us off where we were.
So here's the next thing that made me go, oh, what? Really? Vfib with hypothermia.
Oh man.
So I'm going to read this. This is a very short section, but it made me spiral down this like rabbit hole of thought of like, oh, this is so interesting. Our human bodies are fucking weird. Anyway.
Yeah. We're live, right?
Yeah, we're live. We're going.
Good.
We're rolling.
Good. I love it. Hello, audience. Hello, fans. Hello, you individual listening to this. I am talking to you.
And this is a very good time. And I do think that there are other episodes buried in here that we need to get to. So
goodness, I hope so.
And I know if I know my listeners, they're going to be all over this shit. So you're definitely welcomed back.
Well, one thing real quick, I just have to say, I may or may not have done this yet, but I just need to make sure it's very well understood that anytime someone is personally plugging a product on a podcast, I'm very insulted by it. And I just don't think that it has any place for that. And I think there's a time and a place for
Looks like that book has a mind of its own there. It keeps getting in the way.
Ooh, there's a lot of stuff in that book. I'm telling you. All right.
No, it's great. So Vfib with severe hypothermia. This is a thing that as a nurse, one of the things that's most important is being honest about what you don't know. Because, and something else you said, not in this chapter, but something else you said is basically the sentiment was, if you don't know what the fuck you're doing and you've never done this procedure before, an experienced person is gonna see you coming. So don't act like you know a bunch of shit you don't know, because it could kill your patient and land you in court or worse. So with that said, I thought it was super interesting to learn that if you have a patient, well, you explain it. hypothermia and Vfib? Because I'm just reading what you wrote anyway. So,
well, there's this myth out there. It's not a myth, trust me. But there's this common saying that if you have a severely hypothermic patient and anything startles, rouses, jousts them, Vfib. And forgive me, you may or may not see an Osborne wave. I think that's a technical term. I'd have to Google it again because it's been a minute.
Okay.
Fancy EKG waves aside, you're going to be coding, and you're going to be doing ACLS, CPR, the whole 9 yards. And I had an experience with this personally. I don't get too much into it in the book. I just sort of use it as a cautionary tale. But since you asked, I'll tell you, long story short, no places, no locations, but we encountered this gentleman who had flipped the previous evening, he'd had his driver's license taken away for DUIs and was quadding like on a quad, ATV four-wheeler, down to the liquor store and back, had biffed it, gone into a curb, and this was in the Southwest regions in November.
It gets cold.
He wasn't found till the next morning.
Ugh.
And it turns out he had also, there were so many things. One of my mentors once said, sometimes people have strikes against them. And this gentleman also had, he had a maybe 4 or 5 month old cabbage scar. He had some recent dressings to a femoral place where they'd done. I mean, this was
he had a big old cardiac history.
This was an unfortunate gentleman, and we proceeded to, we checked his blood sugar. We were called in by helicopter. EMS was already on scene, and I say they had checked his blood sugar already. They were very, very good paramedics, and there were law enforcement there as well. And so we knew his blood sugar was okay. He was just altered. Couldn't get pulse oximetry anywhere because of the hypothermia. Blood pressures were difficult. So, we do a neo bump. That's a neosynephrine, phenylephrine bump, which we had in our protocols at the time to try to boost that blood pressure. And then we proceeded with our intubation procedure because he was altered and kind of combative, and he just wasn't with it. And he was ice cold. So blankets were on top. We did everything we could, and we intubated him without a problem. And then everything was going great. We had decent vitals. Everything was going good. Here's where the issue came up. Severely hypothermic, going to have to get a core temp maybe later. He was just, we had to carry him by stretcher across about 75 yards of sand to get to our helicopter with a 6 to 8 person caravan because it was a very large gentleman. And
then there's the weight of the stretcher or whatever the hell you're carrying.
Yeah, he was on a spine board. And so we're doing this, march to the helicopter. And we get to the helicopter, and then all of a sudden I just sort of see him completely lose consciousness. And I look down, and I have a VTAC rhythm, which I'm like, okay. Well, hold on, let me back up.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought I had a VTAC rhythm, but because of all the artifact, I was like, okay, let's, so we do our safety procedures, we lift, and, I shock him once, and, push some epi. I jump into the ACLS protocols, and then we lift. In about 20 seconds after we lift, we're heading down to, because he was a trauma as well, because he went head over heels over his four-wheeler and crashed. I look down, and we've deteriorated to Vfib, and I'm like, damn it. And
for those that don't know, Vfib is when the two biggest the two ventricles of your heart are just quivering.
Yeah, you're dead.
They ain't doing nothing that's helping you out. Blood ain't moving. Yeah, you're toast. And I have from my early days, if I look to my right over here, which you can't see this and you don't need to, but so in this room, this is like my cockpit. I have my makeup table and everything. You can't see. I disappear.
It's so awesome. Your hand is appearing and disappearing out of the fucking planet.
Anyway, I got a little thing up here from when I was in nursing school, and I wrote that like when you have somebody who's in like VTAC and they don't have pulse or VFib, you're shocking them. You're getting that. That's a shockable rhythm.
This is ACLS 101, man.
Fucked. But if we don't do something, that heart is done. So this is scary to me. That carrying them across the fucking sand, and lo and behold, VFib. So then what?
We diverted to the closest facility, which, although it wasn't a trauma center where we originally attended, our priorities had immediately changed.
Yeah.
And we realized that we had a patient that was undergoing a hypothermically caused cardiac arrest, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we deviated to the closest facility and performed resuscitation efforts. To be honest, I would have to check my notes because I haven't told the story in a while.
That's cool. That's okay.
Give you the actual core temperature, but it is such a ridiculous number that I would hesitate to. I'm not a poop joke fan. I don't like poop. I like to avoid that part of nursing. I like to pretend that poop doesn't exist in nursing. I don't like poop. But sometimes when you take a core temperature on a dying hypothermic patient, are you getting their core temperature or did you just stick it into a frozen turd?
Right.
You don't know.
You have no idea.
So we repeated things a variety. And that's the only poop joke I'm going to say. That's not my thing. But
that's cool. That's cool.
You know, I mean, I'll drop F-bombs all day, but I'm not a toilet humor guy.
You would not survive on my unit, good sir.
I know. You're the crazy one. We're talking like I'm the crazy nurse. You're the crazy nurse.
But yeah, so it's true. Like, it's hard to even fucking know what you're. So
he was not resuscitatable, as it turned out, and the hospital threw the book at him and did everything right. Warmed IV fluids, central heating, warming. It went through the. But whole
at that
process.
point, it's just too much for too long. Like,
and as we said, he had a few strikes against him. So
right.
That was one of the. And so I put in the book as an anecdote of if you're dealing with severe hypothermia. That's a Faberge egg of a patient. The fact that we had to go a country mile across sand like a caravan didn't help anybody.
Right.
And it couldn't have also been helped. It was the safest place to sit on the helicopter. It was an unavoidable situation.
Well, and you also talk somewhere in the book about how difficult it is to load a Faberge egg into a however many ton helicopter that has fucking... I mean, I've always been fascinated by flight. Which is, I don't have any flight skills. I do, but like one of the best experiences of my life is when I'm on a commercial airplane and it just takes off that first shot down the runway and you're like thrown back in your seat. I do that every fucking day. I like that. But the thing is, I think that I can handle an emergency that's in the scope of my world. I could potentially see myself moving into critical care. But early on in my career, I had some major anxiety issues because we get some sick fucking patients on my unit, and you already got nurse anxiety, but then like we're not a critical care floor, but sometimes we have patients that are like super acute, like they don't need pressors, they don't need ventilation, but they're the Faberge egg kind of that we're carrying. And so it can be really nerve-wracking. So I can see myself moving into critical care in a stationary building.
Right.
I loved, like, I've been obsessed with this like flight nurse, how cool it is. But the truth of the matter is, I know, and you have to know this to know, if you're the type of person that listens to this podcast and you're like, fuck, yes, I want it, then you follow the steps, you get this book, you check out the resources in the book, and you fucking do this. You get the Flight Nurse Bible, as he is again showing on the screen. I do like the cover. I'm not upset that you keep showing it. Like, it's not...
you ready? You ready for some gangster ass shit?
Let's see.
Check this. Okay, so I'm like, there are going to be some haters, right? Of course, there are going to be some haters. What do people do on the back of their books? They plug their book. They tell you a whole bunch of stuff about the book. You know what the back about my book is?
What's the back of your book?
a giant ass picture of me in front of a helicopter. There's not a word in English.
So let me describe this for people who are listening. So we're looking at, here's the setting. We're on a flight pad on top of a building. You can see in the distance the tops of other buildings. There's a helicopter kind of off to the back. It's not really the one we're looking at. And then there's this blue and white beauty. Kind of looks like a fucking dolphin with wings. And there is a man in a red flight suit looking like he owns the fucking shit that he's about to do, which he does.
It was a calculated thing because I truly wrote this book. So I have a lot of mentors. So one of the things that I've been blessed with is I seek them out. I find them, and I'm so lucky to have them quite often take an interest in me. And I've read a lot of great books by a lot of great people. And pandering doesn't work. I don't like to pander unless it's to you, Adrianne Benning, at the most amazing podcast honor.
Do go on.
I just thought it was like, if the front cover of your book doesn't say everything that you need to know about what might be inside of it, you haven't done your job with making the cover. And I own the picture that's on the cover. I did it all myself. I created the artwork, and like, I don't care if you like it, hate it, don't know how to read. It looks beautiful on a shelf. And
is it a sunset or sunset? Because I thought it was a sunset. Is it a rise or set?
Is it a rise? Sunrise. It's a sunrise. This is an eastern-facing photograph over a desert somewhere out in the southwest regions of the United States.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely
gorgeous.
And I'm not making fun. It really is. It's a cool looking book.
No, it is.
If I saw it on a shelf, it would catch my eye. And if somebody had flipped that fucker over and I just saw you standing there like a badass, I probably would pick up the book to at least see what the hell it's
Well, I wanted to make sure there's not one single legible, like maybe on the helicopter, it might be like a warning, like, but it's totally sterile. There's not one single word on the back cover. It's just a picture. And if that doesn't sell it and the cover doesn't sell it, then you know what? This book ain't for you.
That's right. This ain't for you.
This ain't for you. I didn't write this. I'm not trying to get rich. You don't write a book to get rich. I don't need more money. I've worked so much. I'm like you. I work so much, I don't have enough time to spend the little money I have. And if I did, I'd buy
I haven't hit that status yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, I'm just lying through my teeth. I don't know. What do I do? Buy a Corvette and get killed in it?
But you know what? But you know what? I'm one of those people that my time, my rest, the people important to me are so, like, you'd have to pay me a lot of fucking money to give up my personal time. Let me just say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like I've said before, I'm a better nurse. I get along with people better. I'm not fucking crabby. I'm not hangry as much. So that's my sweet spot.
But you're also so successful and appreciated in this other medium, so that even if you're blessed in the way that even if you have a bad day at the office, which nurses don't have, but you have this other medium that you can come to that you're kind of not just great at. You're an innovator in. I've done a lot of podcasts, Adrianne. This is the first one that we've, first of all, gone anywhere this deep into time and actually had like a Joe Rogan styled, let's just do
conversation
kind of podcast. This is how it should be. And you're the one who's doing that. And I love, I don't want to drop the other names, although can I plug? I should plug.
Yeah, there are so many shows that I love and talk about all the time.
So many great nursing podcasts, and I'm
Which ones do you like? Tell me. Let's compare lists.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, first of all, Elizabeth Overton and I just had a great session together. And while I may not be a tarot card and woo-woo kind of person, neither is she. She's a science-based, amazing human being who just wants to help people be better at everything. And then the famous Nurse Keith on the Nurse show. Oh my goodness, we had a good time talking, and he's such a sweet man. And
I love listening to his voice. Like he's
great. He's so
fucking read the dictionary.
Oh,
and
man.
Be like, I'll check this one out. This is
absolutely. And then Pat Ayers, I did the Legal Nurse Consulting podcast for her. Shout out to Pat Ayers there. And which is really it's kind of funny, and she'll appreciate this. She's actually what started me on the podcast thing. I was plugging the book and different things, and LinkedIn is my main focus for social media because I don't like haters, I don't like trolls, and social media is I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. So I don't do Twitter or any of that. Although you do, and you have so many wonderful things. I don't. I'm a wimp, and
I'm spread too thin. I'm trying to tighten my game up a little bit.
I got LinkedIn and I got my Amazon.
That's good, and do it well.
And that's all I got. But Pat Ayers reached out to me and was like, "Hey, let's be on." It was so funny because originally she has a legal nurse consulting podcast, and she was like, "Oh, well, we'd like to invite you on our show." And to quote Joe from one of his comedy specials, like, "How obvious does a trap have to be before you get suspicious?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we want to invite you on our legal nurse." I'm like, and then we talked, and I saw she has hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, and she's such a professional. And anyway, but she kicked me off on this whole thing of, my goodness. And then I discovered you, I discovered Keith. There's so many. So if you're out there and you have a book, a product, or just a unique perspective on anything, man, talk to these great podcasters, and Adrianne, and she's so generous with her time. She'll link you to others, or just get on LinkedIn and type in podcasting nurse and go talk to these great people. Because
I'm constantly searching. Because here's the thing. I listen to so many podcasts that I often don't get to keep up with them. So there are some that I listen to every episode, regardless of the topic, and I devour them because I love them. And then there are some that I listen to just because I'm like, oh, this is a good reference. Like if I need this, if I have a patient, like I can tap into this and listen to a 5. Because like one of the resources that I preach a lot to new nurses and students, and I've used their resources as well because I don't remember everything I fucking learned in nursing school.
You don't? How dare you?
What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, so some of these I use as just like a reference, and I don't listen to every single episode. But I'm constantly searching because there are all these new episodes that keep coming up, and I keep like finding these things that like. And there are so many podcasts, but none of them are the same. Like you can't just, you don't tune into one and go,
right.
Heard that. This is boring, because everybody's got their different perspective. They're in a different part of the country. They took a different route to get there. I will never, ever run out of topics. I will run out of energy and drive before.
I doubt it severely. I mean,
and the thing is people, I love it when people write to me. I get this like surge of dopamine or whatever the correct endorphin is that whenever I get like a message, or like I get like somebody messaging me and saying like, oh my God, I listened to this episode. And like someone messaged me, actually multiple people messaged me about the episode that I did about like, here's how I got to be a nurse, and boy, did it suck.
That was a good one. You cried during the podcast.
That wasn't even something I realized was going to happen. Like I got so, like I was feeling so cried. You got so sad, emotional. And I felt, because that feeling rushed up again of like, I don't get to go to, I'm going to get upset again. But it's like those nights of like, I can't go to bed if I want this care plan done. If I want to pass this fucking class and finish this fucking semester and get through this damn program, like it felt so high stakes. And I think that's why
you cannot fake passion like that, Adrianne.
But I think that's why I had,
and people know that's why your success is taking off.
Oh, here. So this is actually going to lead me to something else I remembered I wanted to ask you earlier. So I'm going to segue in from what I was saying to this. So all of that, like high stakes, I have to do this. I only have so much money and so much time, and I'm sick of this shit and I'm tired. I have to finish. And so then I think that's what I think bred anxiety in me. Everything was like 10 out of 10, heightened senses.
Oh, yeah.
Can't sleep, can't eat, like that
something's
fight or flight. Yeah. And so when I started on my floor, everything felt that way. So people would come at me and be like, hey, this patient has to go to the bathroom. Hey, you have a phone call. Hey, can you get this patient some ice? And I was just like, no, I can't do any of it. And so now I'm finally, exactly, because at any given time, I've got 4 patients, which sometimes is cool. Sometimes I have 4 like cystic fibrosis patients, and they're independent and they just need IV antibiotics.
Shout out to Schwarzenegger, California ratios, 4 patients.
Yep. fucking right.
What?
Hello.
Thank you, Governor.
And we try to do 3. We try to do 3 to 1 for nurses, because sometimes you've got a patient that is trach to vent. They need constant suctioning. They have wounds that need packed. They need fucking cardiac meds. Like, they're confused. They're climbing out of bed. You don't have a sitter for, like, it can get insane.
You ever seen that?
No, go ahead. Episode of what?
Yeah, I love Scrubs. And
love Scrubs.
Every CNA, MA, EMT, RN, PM, MD. Well, if you have not watched Scrubs series start to finish, you really need to bring yourself up to speed.
It's going to surprise you.
But there's this one hilarious point where this nurse, this resident puts those things you put on canines so they can't scratch themselves post surgery.
Like a cone, the cone.
Like, because this psych patient wouldn't stop hitting her and throwing stuff at her and pulling her, and then they're like, and then it's really funny. The character comes up, who's the mentor, and he's like, no, bad, not for humans. Not for humans. Like, you can't
don't do that. Don't touch it.
But she's like, but it works. And it's like,
yeah.
Sorry, I had to interject.
I'll tell you a little secret about Scrubs. So I love Scrubs. My love of Scrubs predates me going to nursing school.
We're going to have to do a trivia episode of Scrubs.
I'm going to have to. What'd you say? Grip it and rip it. What am I doing? I'm gonna have to crash watch that again. I'm gonna have to binge because it's been a minute. But here's the thing. I, as a new nurse with crippling anxiety and a lot of fucking work to do, I almost had to imagine that there are some things that you do as a nurse that are so fucking ridiculous and seem so far from reality or truth. You're like, you need me to what?
You can't make this shit up.
You need me to what? I just had a memory of something I was once asked to do that I had forgotten about. This was probably 12 years ago. Maybe 8 years ago. I had a patient who told me that the only way she could pee on the bedpan was if I had a cup of warm water. And while she was on the bedpan, if I not poured it over her.
What is this, Boy Scout camp?
I know.
What are you doing?
Needed me to put, and as I'm listening to her, and I don't think I did it. I think I was like, let's run the faucet in the sink if you need it.
I know the episode you're talking about that we won't discuss.
But anyway,
I know what you're talking about.
Sometimes shit is so ridiculous that I have to imagine that my life at work is me on an episode of Scrubs. I've had these moments where you have to think about your life in something, because otherwise you'll go fucking insane. If you don't bring some joviality.
For those of you listening, there's a very, very non-PG episode of Scrubs where a patient has to induce that sort of response in a patient, and I know what she's talking about.
So
listen
anyway,
to it,
sometimes the only way you can handle the weird ass stuff you got to do to help your patients, and also draw boundaries. That's a separate issue, but within reason, there are things that we do for our patients that you got to kind of play along, make shit work so that you get done what you need to get done.
We will be judged.
Pick your battles.
And threaded by everything we do.
Yes.
That's we can talk all we want about cute things, fun things, sweet things. We're going to be crucified or elevated by the actions.
It may sound crazy, but sometimes to keep yourself from just totally fucking losing it, you gotta imagine a laugh track over whatever's happening in your life, because you're like,
yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, Scrubs is near and dear to me because sometimes I have to go there in my head and be on that show because
I love it. And ironically, it's a show without a laugh track. For those
there's no laugh track, which is what. And also, the last thing I'll say about that show before I get to the question that I
did Scrubs.
No, it's good. This is good.
That's a separate podcast. Oh my God.
Mean, this is my conversational style with my closest friends.
We should do a four-way with Scrubs fans.
Oh my God, that would be awesome! Like a panel discussion.
A panel, yes.
I'm gonna start watching that again this afternoon because I need to brush up. Anyway, so there are things that you do.
Rowdy, no. Sorry. All right, continue.
Rogue cat freaking out. But yeah, so basically Where was I going with that? You totally
I'm sorry. I
knocked me off my bar. No, I remember the question though. I don't remember the lead in, but the question is this. So you are in a profession, and maybe this is something you have down because you've been around it for so long. But I want to know what your advice or suggestions or perspectives or whatever are for people that want to go into critical care, emergency care, trauma care, but maybe you're fucking scared and you have a sympathetic nervous response when you get stressed and when shit is getting intense. So what are some of your coping strategies or suggestions or whatever for how to keep your shit together as a new emergency or crit care or whatever that is? How do you keep your panic under control?
Well, there's varying degrees. I mean, you and I have been laughing our tails off, and we've been having such a great time. But to make it real for a second for people, there's varying degrees of jacked up, or since we're on the Nursing Uncensored podcast, fucked up shit you're going to encounter. And it's going to start with the first time you break ribs doing CPR on grandma. Mm. And then it's going to escalate to the first time you deal with a teenage overdose. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be the SIDS infant. And you're going to write these off as medical situations that happen, and you were just doing everything you could. Then the teenage girl is going to come in with a gunshot wound to the head who looks just like your baby sister. And you're going to have a whole separate level of messed up emotion. And it's going to escalate, and it's going to escalate. And you're going to get this your entire career in healthcare. There's no way around it. You have to realize this is normal. Everyone is going through it. You don't think, you mentioned 9/11 earlier and the amazing first responders. Like, watch those videos, watch those Nickelback songs or whatever. I mean, like, listen to the stories of these heroes. You're gonna get destroyed up here. Mm-hmm. You look at look at the VA services offered to these men and women missing arms, limbs, everything from the waist down. Like, these are human beings that have dealt with things that we can only imagine. And they're so positive, and they find ways to get through it. Yeah. And they get through it by acknowledging that they're suffering. Everybody's doing it. You're not special. You think you're the first paramedic to hold a dying child? You're not. You think the first nurse to hold a dying child? You're not. Mm-hmm. Everyone has gone through it, and we're going to go through it, and not just once, 5, 10, 20 times in your career. And you're just going to have to you're just going to take it on the chin, and you're going to, and how people deal with this. You can either get in the bottle, which, don't get me wrong, I love a bourbon as much as the next human being, but that's not a place to hide. You can either deny it, you can either take it out and, whip up your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you're into, children, and, end up in jail as the piece of shit you would be if you did that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That ain't, or you can just say, hey, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, and none of us are getting out alive. Mm-hmm. Death is a part of life, and it's gonna happen. And if you make caring for the sick and dying your chosen profession in life, as a nurse, paramedic, physician, MA, CNA, whatever, there's a good deal of death, destruction, tragedy, and just misery that you're going to be subjected to. And you have to be open about this. You have to say, hey, that was fucked up. Is anyone because everyone there is feeling it too. You're not alone. Mm-hmm. And anyone who says they're not are lying. And you need to actually look out for them more. Mm-hmm. But you need to be the one. I promise. I told you I confronted that guy about his drug abuse. He cried. He broke down like he was a 10-year-old, just weeping and just like, I need help. I need help. You just have to be honest about how you're upset about things. And death is a part of life. And we are here to fight it or accept it intelligently and help people transition into whatever we want to say is next. But you have to be a mature adult about the fact that you were born and you will die. And so will the other 8 billion people on this planet. Mm-hmm. And we just have to be adults about this. We have to be mature about this. And we have to find a way to do the best we can for the greatest number.
Right.
And I think we got a little I think I may have gone a little off topic, but I just love that.
No, but that's what I wanted to tap into. That is really important, because when we're going to go through this shit, whether we like it or not, as members of this profession, and if you just keep tamping it down, it's like compost. It's just going to fester and rot, except you're not doing anything to like aerate it. Or I can't believe I just compared human emotion to compost, but
no.
Metaphor.
It is. Absolutely.
And you may not be able to deal with it in that minute because you've got to be fucking.
Oh, you won't be able to.
No,
yes, you will not.
No.
So you have to go home after your shift and not hit your husband, not hit your wife, not hit your kids, not down a bottle,
not turn to some fucked up coping mechanism. Right.
You need to go to your car, listen to a song, meditate for a few minutes, whatever that means to you. Maybe you're religious, maybe you're not. I'm not, but maybe you are. Do whatever you have to do to clear your head. And you have to say, this is life. I'm a professional. And you have to understand that everyone is going through this, man. Mm-hmm. Everybody is. You're not alone.
So there's something that I also want to bring up, because I was just thinking of this, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before or not. There was a point in time where early in my nursing career, I actually wanted to see a therapist, because sometimes debriefing with your coworkers is great and that can be a fantastic experience, but you don't always have the time, and people sometimes might not be able or willing to talk about it when you are. So it's difficult sometimes to do that debriefing. Or if you're
I see a therapist all the time.
Yeah, and it's important. But here's the thing that I wanted to note is that my first visit, so I did it through like my employee assistance program. They have a program that they offer us lots of services. And one of those is that they'll kind of throw you like 3 to 5 sessions in a crisis. So like when you're experiencing burnout or you've had a major life transition or something, there's a resource you can tap. So I went to this person. She was very nice. I talked to her. And I told her that one of the things that felt like a barrier to me receiving effective therapy was that, one, the first thing, and I think I said to her just like this, I said, I don't want to terrify some like 3rd year social work student with the fucking shit that I'm dealing with. And second, I think I said something like, also, it's difficult for me to talk about something medical because then I feel like I have to explain what I'm talking about for it to make any sense to them.
It's a burden.
It is, but she did point out, and I don't
have a burden, but
yes,
burden.
Indeed. But she said that there are, at least in my area, and I would and the reason I bring this up is I encourage people to look this up, seek this out, find the referrals. There are many nurses, bedside nurses, that have transitioned, gotten advanced degrees, changed their trajectory, their career, whatever, that are now therapists. And so you can go see a nurse who is a therapist and you can do the nurse speak. You can say like, I had this, whatever, I had a cabbage and they had this and and they know what the fuck you're talking about. Because for me, it's been a huge barrier to be like, you're 24, you're learning to be a therapist and you're great, but I don't think you want to hear about the code I witnessed last night that I had a nightmare about every day after I saw it. Like, I don't know that this is a thing for anybody else, but this was a concern I had. Because even though I'm seeking care, I'm worried about damaging my coworker or my caretaker. Typical nurse, right? Like, I'm worried about the mental health of my therapist.
Well,
but that's real. And so I just want to encourage people that don't discount these things because of reasons like that, because there's always going to be someone who has like a nursing background or can talk the talk or isn't afraid of hearing your real things that you have to talk about.
Right.
Some people don't want to talk about these things. Some people want to find other ways to cope. For me, I'm a complainer, but I'm a one-time complainer. So like if something's irritating the shit out of me, I might drop some F-bombs, get really pissed, say some shit I don't mean in private to people, to an audience I know.
Get out. Never. You wouldn't do that.
But then once it's out of my mouth, it floats away. I can get rid of it.
I had a mentor. I was in the military. I was a very young, emotional, aggressive young man going through a lot of crazy things. And I got a bad piece of mail, and I proceeded to box a fiberglass wall or whatever wall.
Drywall.
Thank you. Yeah. I proceeded to, in anger, as a young, just out of teenage years man, box a drywall into whatever's beyond the drywall. And one of my senior leaders came out to me and he goes, "Feel better?" And I was just crying. I was such a bad, I won't get into why, but I just destroyed this wall with my fists. And he goes, "Feel better?" And I said, I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "Cool, let's go."
Yeah.
And he called someone and he fixed the drywall. And, I didn't do it to a person. I didn't do anything. I mean, don't ever take it out on a human being. But,
right.
But I had a psychotic teenage moment of frustration. And this elder genius dude who's used to dealing with psychotic, young, crazy people was like, "Feel better?
Good now?
Good now? You cool, dude?" And I was like,
"You needed?"
"Yeah, sir."
Yeah.
Come with me. And we went and had coffee, and he talked to me for an hour and a half. And you know what? I saw him about 2 years ago. I hadn't seen him since I left that command. And and I was in a flight capacity at the time. And he literally, without hesitation, knew who I was, walked up to me in the flight suit and everything. And he shook my hand and he goes, "Good for you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Thanks." And then I started bawling all over again. I'm just like, "Oh my God, that guy was there for me when I needed it." That's a true story. And it just melted me. I'm like, the compassion this man had for people losing their. So if someone's taking out their bad day on you, and this is just what I can just say, and Adrianne has gone through this. Oh my God. Adrianne does palliative care. I just deal with you when you're dying right now. Adrianne deals with you while you're
It's a slower dying.
And she deals with the family and the crisis and the processes that go into that. There's so many just boom, 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 family problems, social work problems, everything that goes into that. If you've never understood or gone through the process of dealing with someone who's dying or caring or dying yourself, you will, and it will change you. And this gentleman showed me a level of compassion to this angry teenage pissed off kid that no one had ever shown me. I mean, I love my father and all that, but I mean, like, he was just like,
but it was a different presentation.
Yeah. And I grew so much from that one moment. And so now that I'm a leader to some people and they're watching me and I see them emotionally acting out, it helps me to be like, "All right, kid, male, female, whatever." It's like, "All right, young lady. All right, young man. Let's, what happened this week? Like, like, girlfriend dumped you, boyfriend dumped you. What happened? Yeah. Did you fail an exam? Did you not get accepted? Like, what is it that is making you not your best right now?" And people want to give that. And so I recommend therapy to everyone. I'm not a psychotic person. I know. But, read the book. You'll see I'm just energetic. However, therapy is a blessing. Therapy, and it's not for you selfish POS. It's for your lover, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your children, your coworkers. And so you don't take out your personal BS on them. It's not just for you. It gives you a person to download your crap onto.
Especially someone who's also bound by privacy and professional guidelines. Like,
unless you say you're going to blow your head out, it's all private.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, but it's true. I cut you off. So you were just resuming after I cut you off. But no, that's basically what it is that you are you're in a safe space. You can say what you need to say. You can get the help that you need, and you're not busting HIPAA by telling your spouse about some shit that happened, and you're not, you're in that kind of safe professional.
Yeah.
They also have the foresight to say, like, this sounds like a little bit more than what you can deal with on your own right now, and to make you able to get through this period of your life, maybe we should try ABCD. So that's the other nice thing, because your mom may listen to you all day long and she tells you how great you are and how much she loves you and how you are going to keep going and all that. But or not. I mean, I just, I pick that. So
I'm laughing.
But yeah, it's true. Maybe you don't have that. Maybe you don't have anyone to be that cheerleader. But regardless of that, as people, we emote. Like when you get sick, I tell people this all the time, especially when people are having a hard time dealing with vulnerability or showing emotion. Like I've even had patients, big, strong, tough dudes, or jerk the whole hospitalization. And then one night I catch them, in a tender moment, and I make a breakthrough and I discover this really tough ass motherfucker is just really scared and he can't tell anybody that. So you have to, okay, so here's what I tell people. When people are struggling with this vulnerability, I say, okay, here's the thing. There are things that can make your body sick. When we vomit, we don't shame people. When we have diarrhea, maybe we shame people a little. But in general, like if you have to emit these things, like you have to expectorate these things that are making you sick. Now, if your emotions are the things that are making you sick, we shame so hard. Men who cry, women who cry too much.
Yeah, forget about all that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like me
and Joe Rogan are bringing crying back. Crying is manly.
That's fucking right. But that's just it. Like you wouldn't shame somebody because they had to puke because they're sick and they need to get that shit out of there, but their body doesn't want it anymore. So why do we shame people when they need to expel those things which plague them that are not tangible? It's not vomit. It's not the thing that you don't like to talk about, but it is a byproduct of shit we've experienced in our bodies. And we know that emotion is not just separate from our bodies, because if it was, you wouldn't get the heart palps when you're nervous. You wouldn't get the nervous shits. You wouldn't, your body wouldn't react. So we already know. We know that there is a connection between fucked up emotions and your body not working right. We already know this. Cortisol coursing through your body. Like these all have detrimental effects. So why the fuck do we shame the treatment and the expelling of this shit?
Absolutely. And let's look at some basic, not that oh my God, once again, we're having such a great time. I feel like this is a whole separate podcast on the psychology of nursing. But it's not about you. You see that movie Doctor Strange on the one of those movie superhero movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love it, but like I literally paused the film. I watched it. I saw it in the theater, of course, and it was all lost on me because we all know how I go to the movie theater. So it was lost on me at the time, but I rewatched it when it came out, and I was by myself, and and that moment where, spoiler alert, that moment where the mentor guru says to him, where he basically asks, like, what's it about? Like, what, who can I become? And she says, it's not about you. It's not about you. You're a savior. You're a hero. You're a nurse. It's about them, you selfish prick. And I had to pause and just weep because it was just, I needed to hear that. We all sometimes need to hear that because we get so rah, alpha, male, female, whoever, whatever. We just want to be the best at everything. And we need to be reminded, there's a lot of things behind my name and yeah. none of that's going to make the patient remember how I made them feel. None of that's going to make them feel safer.
They don't even know what half that shit means.
They don't. And all they're going to
remember, we do. I'm impressed.
All they're going to remember is how I made them feel. And it sounds cheesy, and it is cheesy. But it has to be cheesy because this is what we're doing. We are never going to see people on their best day. That's not what we do here. We deal with people on their worst day, and we have to bring them the best of ourselves on their worst day. And so, like, I literally have a screenshot. It's one of my phone screensaver things, and it's that picture where the guru is looking at Dr. Strange, and he has that cocky face with facial hair, much like mine right now. And and she just says, and I have it subtitled at the bottom. It says, "It's not about you. Like you jerk. You're just an egotistical jerk. It's not about you."
And I've talked about that before in like the way I kind of compartmentalize my emotions doing end of life care, because I really love end of life care. I think I'm good at it. I don't think I'm good at a whole large slew of things. You
are clearly good at it.
So, and I love it. And I think that's part of what makes me good at it, is that I genuinely enjoy is not the right word. I take satisfaction.
No, it's okay to enjoy caring. It's okay to enjoy.
Yeah. But, when you have a patient that they're at the end of their life and they're very uncomfortable and they're breathing hard and they just don't look calm. Their face is tense, their body is tense. And then you get them to a point where they relax. Like even something as simple as like I had a patient that I had their hands elevated just for some postural drainage so that the swelling in their hands would be better.
Right.
And her daughter said, "Those look like my mom's hands again." Those little fucking things. So when you're doing that, like you don't know what little thing is going to matter to that person. And like I've said this before, I remember the security guard who took me to the morgue to see my dad when he died, because I wasn't living at home. I hadn't seen my dad in a couple months. I needed that reality. Otherwise,
did you get to say goodbye or no?
I did. Yes. Yes and no. He had been sick for a long time.
We don't have to go there. I mean,
but yes,
it's up to you.
I was able to say what I needed to say. I had my peace with that. But like, I remember the security guard. And so I have to remember that when I'm taking care of people, it's possible I might be their security guard. I remember what her face looks like. I remember her voice. I remember what she said to me. I remember how she stood. So I have to think like, that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at everything, but you have to be genuine, because this person may remember your face, whether they're the patient, the family member, the patient survived or they didn't. You might be the person that is seared into their memory, and you can either make them feel good, comforted, like they were safe, or it can make them feel traumatized, and you get to pick how you behave. So if you're rough
every second
of
every day,
if you're rough with your patients, if you act annoyed, motherfucker, I will slap a face if you roll your eyes at your patient. I'm not violent, but don't make your patients feel like shit. They already feel like shit.
You are one mistake away from, to quote it again, being terminated, litigated, killed in an accident, or some combination of the three. And that doesn't just matter. There are more nurses that are beaten to death by patients in hospitals than are killed in helicopter crashes. And I made that up off the top of my head because I know it's true. I don't have to look it up.
Yeah. I've been assaulted. I've been assaulted by patients, both confused and not.
And there's a lot of nurses and paramedics and healthcare caregivers that are killed in helicopter accidents. I just happen to know the statistics are worse for violence in hospitals. You could show up as a CNA on day one, age 18, in 5 days, and be choked to death and killed by the first patient you try to take vital signs on. Like this, you have to become a defensive servant to everyone. And that's the attitude. Like
for example, I worked on neurosurgery for a long time. So we have patients. I lovingly
cool.
refer
I
to
love
it as
neurosurgery.
boot camp for CNAs. That's what it felt like to me. I learned more there. I mean, that's really what made me go, oh, this is insane, but I bet I could do it. But, you know, you have patients that are confused, they're combative, they're scared. Maybe you have patients with dementia that think you're trying to kill them. And that medicine that's actually helping them, they think you're, you come up with you have all these situations where people are not in their right minds and it's not their fault. So I was to the point where I was like, I don't wear lanyards because I don't want to get choked. I don't wear big earrings because I don't want them to get ripped out of my earlobes. I don't wear rings because but you know what? If you know your situation and your setting, like now in the situation I'm in now, the only reason I don't, exactly. I wear my watch pretty high up on my arm so that I can walk. Yeah, but whatever, it pops off quick. The point is, you have to know your environment and know what is appropriate and what's safe and what's not. Like, you know, in the behavioral psychiatric unit where I did clinicals, they taught us that with certain patients, you don't want the patient between you and the door. So as you're providing them care, make sure you always have a fucking way out. I've seen patients throw metal IV poles, throw chairs. You need to be able to. So you need to know your environment. Sometimes people work in areas.
You just said. What is the most important?
You need to know your environment, and
give yourself a way out. You're always between the potential assaulter. Mm-hmm. We love them. There are patients. We love them. They're a potential assaulter, regardless of that fact. We are always between them and the door. We got to get out of there, or at least make it easier for once we're knocked out, someone to grab us by the heel, ankle, whatever.
And then that puts everybody at risk. That puts everybody at risk. That puts the patient in the next room. Your coworkers.
You just nailed something so amazing. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, please. No, I'm done. No, that's okay. That's fine.
Was just so amazing.
But really, but you need to know your environment because, like now, I work in a space. If I had big earrings on, the only reason that would be a potential problem is because I got to put respiratory masks on, and you don't want to be fucking with your earrings trying to get a mask off, and it's tangled in your stupid earring. But I don't have, in general. I
had plugs for years.
So they could get their finger in there.
I had fake plugs. I never got it all weird and
super stretched. But
I used to love my earrings. Anyway.
But you just have to know the situation you're in. You know, like I don't know. You just got to know, and you got and it's good to follow suit by those who have been there a while. Like one of the things that I had thought about before that you confirmed in your book, The Flight Nurse Bible, you talk about how you have to. It's not just the flight suit that you got to keep in good shape. You can't wear synthetic fabrics under that shit. You don't want your shirt melting to your skin in the event of a high temperature fire situation.
We wear Nomex, and being a corpsman and having been deployed as a platoon corpsman with the Marines and whatnot, there's a lot of IED studies, explosive devices, and whatnot, and there's so many studies that have come back showing, because Under Armour, I'm plugging them. I'm not critiquing them, so I hope they don't mind. I know.
It's cool. Whatever.
Sorry, you can edit this if I'll get you sued. Anyway, I wear it to this day. I love working out now. I do jiu-jitsu in it. Like, I love Under Armour. But it turns out synthetic fabrics. And when you get blown up, and I say this very eloquently in the book, I say essentially synthetic fabrics, that stuff you wear, not neoprene. Neoprene is fireproof and electrical proof, and neoprene's great, but the synthetic fabrics, that word I just said from the company that makes that stuff that we all wear because it breathes, it turns into, if you apply a lighter to it, you can see, it turns into plastic lava, and it will seal on whatever it's on. When you're burned, you wear a Nomex bodysuit. I realize on the back of my book, I have my sleeves rolled up. And I say in the book, always keep your sleeves down. Well, I wasn't flying then. When we took off,
you were on your break.
Down. But you wear this Nomex and you look at, you can Google images of Nomex burns versus non-Nomex burns. And it is, first of all, gut-wrenching and impressive. Nomex works. And here's the thing about cotton. You need to wear it. Yes, it's not as comfortable and it's kind of stuffy and, this amazing super orange shirt I'm wearing. This is 100% cotton right now. And that's fine. If I were to light it on fire right now, or if I was to be hit with a blast, the cotton would accept the heat and it would burn and dissipate, but it would block. I'm going to get hit with the heat no matter what. I'm going to be first degree, second degree, maybe, but the cotton's going to absorb the blow and get burnt and disappear. It turns into ash. Mm-hmm. Or you could try it. Try it at home. Light a cotton shirt on fire.
Don't try it at home. Do not start lighting shit on fire. You make sure you're safe.
Go to a parking lot.
Google a video.
Well, things were going so well to that point.
We're cutting this whole thing down now.
We might be. But, oh my goodness! Don't light yourself on fire, you freaking idiots! No, my goodness, no. The
point is that cotton burns like fucking cotton.
Cotton is going to accept the heat and it's going to dissipate, and it'll block you from some of the initial heat. All synthetic fabrics turn into plastic lava and adhere to the skin. Mm-hmm. So, and you can Google this. I won't even get into it. It's so morbid.
Yeah. But the point is that you have to know your environment. You have to know what the threats are. You have to know what potentially could hurt you. I think in general, most, even if nurses wear lanyards, like the necklace with the badge, most of those are breakaway. Yeah, they gotta be, because you don't want somebody to grab onto that, confused or not. They can either pull you into them, they can choke you. Yeah. God knows you don't want any of that. So I wear mine clipped to my shirt. But if you yank it, it'll come loose. I'm sure. Yeah, I don't want it. It won't just fly off, but it's not gonna nobody's gonna be able to pull me into their hospital bed by my fucking badge.
Well, let's also face it. You're not the average human being. You have some power to you. You've probably taken a little bit of training here and there.
That was a neurosurge boot camp that I learned how to, you got a patient that's going to throw a punch, get out of the way, and then slap on that soft restraint and call the doctor for the order. Patient was getting aggressive.
And quick point on that. Soft restraints versus hard restraints, we're messing around with words here. If it's a 300-pound crazy person, soft restraints aren't restraints. We have to restrain them for the safety. Mm-hmm. All we have is hard restraints. You're not allowed that option in that case. It's about safety. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to, if you're dealing with Captain Mayhem, throw the leathers on and just call it safety for your staff. Don't let people get hurt because you're trying to tie the little rope on the fucking little plastic clip on the Velcro. Are you kidding me?
I've seen people just Hulk right out of those. They just, and it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great way to die early. No, don't do that.
Well, and also, ultimately, you want, even if your patient's being aggressive, you want to keep them safe too.
Absolutely.
I saw a patient. Sometimes you have these young male patients that are very physically fit. They're very strong. I've seen a guy. He was in a posy vest, which essentially is like a vest that has ties behind you, and you can tie it to the underside of the bed frame so they can't get up. He had a posy. He had wrist restraints. He had ankle restraints. We caught him standing next to, he had a major brain injury, by the way. We caught him standing next to his bed. He had pulled out his PICC line, which, if you don't know, your PICC line goes from the inner part of your arm into your your atria. So then you've got blood shooting. He pulled out his Foley with the balloon still blown up. He had an NG tube that was gone. That was probably the first thing to go. I'm getting a warning that my internet is unstable. So if it glitches out,
are we okay? Are we
Yeah,
okay?
we're okay. We're okay. I just wanted to let you know, it gave me a little pop-up warning. So
Okay, let me check my connection.
yeah.
I think we're okay.
Cool. Thanks for the warning, Apple. Thank you.
Are we exceeding?
We're good. No, we're good. We're good.
Okay,
I am
there's a
getting
slight
hungry though. Is there a delay?
You know what? This has been amazing. This has been wonderful. My goal was to be so exciting and that we took it to the limit. I don't know if we did that, but I think we did it close.
Like 3.5 hours. So
are you
we started at 1 p.m. Central Time. It is now 4:30 p.m. Central Time.
Oh.
Like, I feel like, and I'll just throw this out here. I feel like I also just want to just, we can just release this as is. I'll break it up for the audio because people like to listen on their commutes. But This video, this is my feature film.
I mean, there's a reason that Joe Rogan has 4 to 8 million followers.
Trillion people. Yeah, exactly.
It's because it's open, honest dialogue with real people being real. And, never trying to promote a product at all, ever. I'm obviously joking for those of you that aren't listening to this or viewing this. The Flight Nurse Bible, we're going to sign off soon because I think the internet's going to cut us off because we've gone so long. The Flight Nurse Bible, A Field Guide to Awesomeness, Robert P. Harris. I'm very easy to find on Amazon and LinkedIn. And if you have not listened to everything that this amazing RN, Adrianne Benning, has out to offer to you, join in and let's get this going. Pleased to meet you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, this has been a great episode. This has been fantastic. This was as good as I expected and better because we've talked about a lot more than I had planned. So
much more.
But I enjoyed the book, and I do encourage people to get it and look through it because even if, like I said, I started by just kind of like spot reading things, and then I went back through and I was like, oh, wait, I got to read this whole thing because this is interesting. So, yeah. And then you've also got at the back of the book, you've got the reference list. So the Flight Nurse Bible is not only your perspective on flight nursing, trauma, and emergency nursing, but also there's a lot of other great resources and information in there. You are a super RN. I'm so glad that I got to talk to you. I hope that people listening feel really motivated because your energy is contagious. 3.5 hours later, even though I
had no idea it had been that long. Did we really do 3.5 hours?
It's been, with a 7-minute potty break in there.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
So I feel like I need tacos now. So I'm going to go check.
We'll come to San Diego and we'll have some tacos.
Okay, so I have 2 things to say on the close. One is that I have a friend who was started as a travel nurse, went to San Diego, took a per diem job there because he loved it so much. And so San Diego already has been vouched for in my world. So Doug and I definitely want to come to the West Coast someday. So that is going to happen. The other thing is that I have to say, just because I don't know, this reference might be lost on the majority of people. Do you know who Nick Kroll is?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Okay. Do you know Kroll Show?
Yes.
Do you remember the San Diego diet?
Well, of course.
That's what I think of. The whole time we've been talking, I've just wanted to blurt out the
tell people.
Diet. So basically, it's just like Nick Kroll. He has this comedy sketch show. It was
and Google him and listen to him as well. Great stuff.
Fucking amazing. I just bought season 1 because it's not streaming on anything right now, and I was having severe.
It will be for sure.
Yeah, it will. But he does a parody of every diet commercial you've seen on TV, and it's just the character. I'm not even going to try to describe it because I won't do it justice. I encourage you listening to search online for Kroll Show, the San Diego diet, and then you'll know why I've been like silently giggling every time you mention that you're in San Diego. So makes me want to do like a hands-free cartwheel.
But I got to warn everybody, it's really tough out here. I walked outside of my house this morning and I was nearly blinded by walking into a palm frond. Like I had to be careful. It's really dangerous out here. You got to be careful.
So it is 40 some degrees here today. It is officially football season, and I, in a college town, get the privilege of dealing with tailgaters and all of the things that go along with that. Because here, without saying too much, our football stadium, like you could hit our football stadium with a golf ball from the hospital. So football season is a big deal to my nurses. Yeah, we get those patients. Yeah. The fall down, go boom patients at FDGB. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's real life. And then my friend who is in Minneapolis told me this morning that she had snow on the plants on her balcony. And I was like, I'm sorry.
That's that
I can't
white
hear
stuff
that.
that falls.
That's that white shit that you hear about. You see it in Christmas movies. And
right.
So that's what I'm coming up on. So I'm going to have to find a conference like in Florida or California. That's what I did a couple years ago. I went to a really great conference in Orlando for Halloween, basically. So anyway, this has been a fantastic episode. I want to encourage people, like you said, go to Amazon, get the Flight Nurse Bible, sit down and just get a cup of coffee, tea, whatever you like. Sit down, just fucking read the thing.
If you want the beautiful hard copy, it's going to cost you a whole $14-something. Oh my goodness, how could he dare?
Add it to your professional library. It's
but the Kindle's $5.49. It's
burrito.
So just have fun with it, hate it, love it, send me stuff. I'm here to help you. I truly am a servant, just like Adrianne. I just want to help people appreciate being how awesome we can be. So Adrianne, thank you for this amazing opportunity. I'm so glad.
You'll have to come back. Excellent. And do you know how we end every episode?
Well, maybe you could remind me.
Happy nursing, folks.
Well, my lovelies, I am afraid that is it for 2019. In fact, you're probably listening to this in 2020. This has been a milestone year for me and Nursing Uncensored. And I want to just say a little something, so please listen for just a smidge longer. This past year has blown my mind. January, I was overjoyed to reach 30,000 downloads, a number that seemed massive to me back then. By December, the podcast hit over 220,000 downloads, 17,500 plays on the browser, and collected at least 9,000 followers that I can track. And I was able to collaborate with like 15 stellar nurses and professionals on over 25 different episodes, not including 2 shows that I did on other podcasts like Everyday Heroes with Q the Nurse and Good Nurse, Bad Nurse with Tina Vi. So I learned how to improve my content and editing the hard way, and with some very appreciated help from some industry influencers, I launched this semi-regular vlog and product reviews on my YouTube channel. So if you've not seen those, it's a whole new world over there on the Nursing Uncensored YouTube channel. Check that out. All of this, and there is so much more to come in 2020. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening, writing to me, commenting on all my content. If you've messaged me and you've not gotten a response, I am trying to get to all of you, and as this train speeds up, I'm both motivated and dizzy by all the things to pay attention to. But don't worry, I will keep churning out content as quickly as I can and responding to you in between shifts as much as I can. As a final note, I would love for you to help keep Nursing Uncensored growing and thriving with a donation. No amount is too small. Every dollar is appreciated and goes right back into my overhead costs for this show and making it better. Drop $1 or $2 at paypal.me/nursedrizzles. That's nurse, DRIZZLES. That is all. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all in 2020. Happy nursing.
Here at Nursing Uncensored, we may be, well, uncensored, but we're not unfiltered. Protected health information has been changed and concealed to comply with HIPAA. The things we talk about are from years of experience with thousands of patients, things we've read, stories we've heard. If you think we're talking about you, we're not. Also, we're real nurses here to provide helpful and accurate information, But don't take anything we say as fact without doing your own research. Refer to your state's Board of Nursing, Practice Acts, and your institution's policies and procedures if you have questions about your practice. Lastly, our very strong opinions are ours alone and do not reflect those of our employers, educational, or professional institutions. Thanks for listening, and happy nursing, folks.